All righty, let's try this one more time, folks. I appreciate you being with us as we try to deal with these technical difficulties. If it doesn't work again, well, we'll be back here later, but let's go ahead and give it another try. I think the stubbornness that I have is something that will pay forward here. But if you're just tuning in, what we were watching and listening to was how the Democrat Party basically utilizes statistics to prove that there's racism. Now, I'm not saying there isn't racism, but what they try to do is say, well, because there's some sort of disparity in data where black people and brown people are being arrested at rates that are higher than white people and, say, Asian people, well, because of that, then it must inherently,
Leader Jeffries, let me ask,
be racist, which is crazy because, as I was mentioning before, the technical difficulties is that when you take that logic, and as a Christian, a Catholic, or anybody of faith, well, you could take that logic and say, well, then God himself is racist because there are statistics out there through what God created, meaning natural order, that have a disparate impact on black and brown people more so than Asian people and white people. So with that theory that they prove is disparate impact theory, then God himself is racist. And I think this is an absolute nutcase of a theory because when you utilize it, well, now you get people going out and deleting people that should be locked up behind bars or in a padded wall and not amongst everybody else. So here we have the Democrat mayor, or at least the mayoral debate in Seattle, talking about this very thing, and it's crazy.
Somebody has offended 6, 7, 8 times, even if it's a minor offense, but they continue to fail to turn their life around. At what point do you balance public safety to giving this person, some accountability? What is that balance?
So let me make something very clear. I was the one that sponsored the ban the box legislation when everyone opposed it because the criminal system has had a disparate impact on black and brown communities. Let me lead with that. So when this person is committing 6 or 7 crimes, I don't know his or her story. Maybe they were abused as a child. Maybe they're hungry. So my
back on the street. Gotcha.
Remedy is to find their life story to see how we could help first. I have no desire to put them in jail. But I need to protect you, and that's the calibration that we have. I put police officers on the stand. I've cross-examined them. So whether they commit 7 or 8 crimes, to me, is not the issue. The issue is, why are they committing these crimes?
You see the same idea. It's called restorative justice in the education system, where somebody could literally beat the crap out of a teacher or a student, doesn't really matter, commit a really heinous crime on a school campus, and then you don't punish the kid whatsoever for doing anything bad. I mean, he just beat the crap out of the custodian. No big deal. Now what needs to happen is you get to sit down in a circle and everybody gets to talk about their problems that they have with each other, mostly the kid that beat the crap out of the custodian, and everybody has to listen to that. And through that, what you do is you find the person's life story, their choices, if they're hungry, if they've been abused or whatever it is. And then rather than actually punishing the kid, you go, oh, well, that makes sense now why you beat the crap out of the custodian. You just didn't have breakfast. Oh, well, no big deal. Go on your merry way. Now, how does that have an outgrowth? The outgrowth of that is, oh, you deleted a bunch of people, or oh, you assaulted a bunch of people 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 plus times. Maybe you have 40 priors, or in the 60s, as we've seen before, 60 priors, 60. You go out on the street, you do a bunch of heinous crimes. Oh, but I get it now. Gotcha. You grew up in a rough area. You beat the crap out of your mom. She kicked you out of the house. So now you're hungry. And so because of that, don't worry. We're not going to lock you up. Matter of fact, we're not really going to do anything. And but we got your life story. So here we go. That's basically what he said, was it not? It's the wildest thing to me, disparate impact theory. Most often, by the way, I just want to point out, most often it has nothing to do with racism whatsoever. It has everything to do with somebody's individualized decisions that go out and commit some sort of crime. And you have to think, when black men who are making up a lot of this crime, in terms of, I should say a lot, but they make up about 50% of certain crimes if you look at the statistics. We covered it in my book, Trojan Horse. I went back 60 years of crime data for you, by the way, in my book, Trojan Horse, How the Left is Destroying America. And what I show you is, It should actually be rare to see a black person commit a crime because there's only 6.5% of them in the population as far as black males. If you look at the totality of it, 13% of the population is black, meaning you should be able to, in theory, go a long time without ever hearing or seeing a black person ever committing a crime because it would be so rare because there's so little of them in the population, if that makes sense. But because you have 13% of the population making up like 50% of the murders, that's a cultural problem, folks. It's crazy when people go, well, it's a race problem. It's not a race problem because the amount of melanin in your skin has nothing to do, as far as I'm aware. I'm sure there's a high correlation to it, but correlation doesn't mean cause and effect to somebody committing a crime. So I don't believe it's a race thing. I think it's a cultural thing. And what I mean by that is there could be a lot of single fathers or single mothers rather in the black community, just as much as there is, again, in the white community too. It goes both sides. And that's why a lot of white people commit murders as well. The difference is there should be a lot more murders by white people, in theory, if you look at it, because there's a lot more white people in the United States. So you'd expect to see a lot more of that happening. That's why when you have a lot of these, commercials or movies or TV shows, I'm not against them putting black people in. I think it's great, by the way. There's amazing actors like Denzel Washington and others that have come out and done amazing works. But when you have them in every single thing, it doesn't portray what happens in real life. So what it does, it actually moves you into that uncanny valley of going, well, here's a Coca-Cola commercial. There's a white person, Asian person, black person, Filipino person. There's like every race in there, but they're all one family. And you're like, well, how does that work out? That's weird. Like, how is it that a black person and a Filipino got together and had a white baby? Maybe it's adopted, but you get what I'm saying. It kind of pulls you out a little bit because you know what they're doing. It's not what we tend to see in society. Now, that idea does fall apart. If you live in a predominantly black community, well, then you're going to see predominantly a lot of black people, so that when you do go actually to the movies or you watch something, you might find that a little bit weird because you're going, well, there's a lot of black people around me. Why is there so many Asian people or Hispanic people that I'm watching on TV? That's not reality. There should be all black people. So it does fall apart in some cases, in some scenarios, but worldwide, it pretty much holds true, I would imagine, other than if you actually, maybe it doesn't hold true worldwide. You go to South Korea, there's a bunch of Koreans there. You go to China, there's a bunch of Chinese there. So maybe it doesn't. Maybe I'm wrong, but I appreciate you guys hanging on with the technical difficulties. Again, I apologize. There's nothing I could possibly do about it, but a lot of people keep coming in and rejoining. So I appreciate you understanding. There's nothing I could possibly do about that. It just cuts out. So we'll see if it cuts out again. Let me know in the chat. Appreciate the moderators and everybody else for giving us a heads up on what's going on. Well, again, Donald Trump has a peace plan and talks about proceeding rapidly. Muy rapido. President Trump said Monday on Truth Social that there had been very positive discussions with Hamas and Arab countries over the weekend and that the talks are proceeding rapidly. And I think the big thing here was getting all the Arab countries in the region to get behind Donald Trump's peace plan, because it puts a lot of force on Hamas, because now they are legitimately all alone. And so they don't have the backing of these other countries that were maybe secretly giving them munitions or some sort of funding or whatever it was to proceed through this terroristic acts. President Donald Trump has signaled optimism in the talks. Last week, President Trump laid out a 20-point plan, which we covered some of that on not just Bald Brad, but mostly on Dark MAGA. So make sure you join our Dark MAGA podcast, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Tuesdays and Thursdays, because we do go over a little bit more stuff long form and break certain things down. The proposal includes the recent release of all hostages within 72 hours. Now, here's the thing, is it's odd because it's been past 72 hours since the plan was initiated, but now it's like, well, it's from when they actually accept the plan. Okay, well, they accepted it. So what hour are we on right now is the question. I don't even know. So 72 hours for all Hamas terrorists to be turning in their arms, the destruction of all Hamas military infrastructure, including the vast tunnel system, and guarantees that Hamas will have no role in the governance of Gaza. I'm not holding my breath with this one, let's just say. On the flip side, Trump's plan says no Palestinians will be forced to leave Gaza, and those who can return, or who can return. It also offers amnesty for Hamas terrorists who surrender peacefully. That look, I guess I did say that if you surrender, then you get to live. So I guess they get some sort of amnesty for beheading a bunch of people with, gardening utensils and tools. So it's fine that you get to torture people for hours and delete them, I guess. And it offers vague mention of a pathway to Palestinian statehood and self-determination, though no guarantees were given, and Israel appears unlikely to budge on that front. I don't think they should budge on it, but Again, I'm also not pro-Israel. I'm not pro-Palestinian. Actually, I've been reaching out to people on social media about good books to understand more of that conflict, just altogether, the history of Israel and Palestine. So I can get a good indicator on really who was first, what's going on here, and get a gauge of what the hell's going on. The whole conflict is freaking crazy. It's confusing to me. You also have two different religions that fork against one another. So if you look in the scriptures, the Jewish scripture and the Quran, the Torah and the Quran, they kind of fork in terms of who to believe. And that's why a lot of this stuff isn't coming down to a resolution, because one believes in two different things because it forks at a certain point. That's why I believe one thinks one is Israel and one is Palestine. But that's for another conversation. Once I've read up on it and studied it, then I'll be able to get more of an understanding. So Trump made it clear Friday that this was his final offer, saying, if this last chance agreement is not reached, all hell, like no one else has seen before, will break out against Hamas. I've always said this. The problem with this language is that Trump always says this language, but I've never seen him actually do something that all hell broke loose. Does that make sense? All hell to me breaking loose is you going in and carpet bombing Gaza. I am not asking for that, by the way. I am not asking for that. I'm merely saying what I think all hell would break loose would look like was you sending in B-2s or whatever the Israelis got, and you're starting to pull like a World War II on London, and you're carpet bombing everybody. That would be all hell breaking loose because it would look like it. Within hours of that warning from Trump on Friday, Hamas officials issued a statement of their own. So here we go. This is what the Hamas is saying. Thanking him for his efforts at peace and saying they would release all 48 hostages, both living and the dead. It's not clear how many of those remaining are still alive. I thought there was like 70 something. So I guess there's only 48 now. I should say only. That's a lot. You shouldn't have any hostages. Trump responded quickly, calling on Israel to cease bombing in Gaza, which they did. So it's funny because Trump was giving the Israelis props, like he was giving them credit for not bombing them while a peace deal is trying to go in. Well, they shouldn't be giving props to anybody. No, duh. You're trying to create peace. It's not easy to do when you're bombing the guy as you're giving them an ultimatum to sign a peace agreement. So they're less inclined to do something. It would be like this. Let's say I'm just punching you in the face right now. And I'm saying, hey, let's go ahead and I want you to think about this, but I'm thinking about not punching you in the face anymore. So while I punch you in the face, I want you to think about if you can agree to have me stop punching you in the face. It's a little odd thing to do. And by the way, it's not just with Israel and Palestine. Let's just put that one aside. That's what's going on over there with Russia and Ukraine, where Russia's punching Ukraine in the face and going, hey, yeah, we want peace. By the way, so when you figure this whole thing out, I'll stop punching you in the face. But while you're thinking about it, I'm going to continue to punch you in the face. That's basically, you're not going to give credit to somebody. You got to stop punching the guy in the face so he can think clearly. It's a good analogy, by the way. You know it is. Don't give me crap. You know it's a great analogy. The negotiations, Hamas on Friday has agreed to hand over control of Gaza to Palestinian Body of Independence, a condition laid out by Trump. So hold on. Friday, they agreed to this. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Well, that'd be 72 hours as of today, depending on what time they agreed with this on Friday. So where's the hostages? The Israelis agreed to reduce the military activity in Gaza to a minimum. Sure. And engaged only a defensive fighting. They also appeared ready to release hundreds of Palestinian prisoners held in Israel and hundreds more captured within Gaza during the war. So we got that for you. All righty. Well, hopefully all you enjoying the show. Again, thank you so much for bearing with me during we're having hiccups with OBS, and which is my streaming software, and something else. I have no idea, but appreciate all of you. ICE agents have ambushed in ICE Chicago. Wow, geez. ICE has ambushed ICE in Chicago. That's where we're at. Hold on. Let me wet my whistle really quick. I'm frazzled. ICE agents were ambushed in Chicago. Here we go. Maybe we get some clips for all of you. ICE agents in Chicago were attacked over the weekend by anti-ICE agitators. No, see, this is the problem. And look, the Daily Wire, you guys know I love you over there. Anti-ICE agitators. No, these are leftists. They're not even Democrats, because Democrats don't believe in attacking law enforcement. This is a progressive leftist ideology. Federal officials were forced to draw weapons in self-defense, sending at least one woman to the hospital, which went viral over the weekend. People like, oh, I shot somebody, just a peaceful protester. She was out there flipping burgers, just helping cleaning up the streets, feeding the protesters. And yeah, she got shot for no reason. ICE officers were ambushed on Saturday and boxed in by 10 vehicles. One of the agitators, which Homeland Security called domestic terrorist, was armed with a semi-automatic weapon. Well, then that would be an Antifa member. If they're calling them a domestic terrorist, Antifa is designated as a domestic terrorist organization. According to the Homeland Security spokeswoman, law enforcement was forced to deploy their weapons and fire defensive shots at an armed U.S. citizen who drove herself to the hospital to get care for wounds. 2 people have been arrested. The woman referenced by the department was it Marimar? Is that right? Marimar? Martinez, who officials said was known before the incident for making threats against immigration enforcement. Now, when was she making these threats, and was she having police department showing up at her home saying, hey, what's going on with these threats? So not exactly a good thing. But after the attack, Chicago police left the area, leaving federal agents in a precarious situation. According to Homeland Security, over the weekend, Homeland Security Kristi Noem and Illinois Democratic Governor J.B. Pritzker, who's just a trash governor, traded shots. Chicago hasn't had a Republican leading the way in 50 years plus. Majority of us in our lifetime, by the way, in the chat and listening on audio, you have probably never seen a Republican mayor or governor in Chicago in your entire lifetime. And we have an older audience, by the way. How is it possible? And we see this in LA. At least I've seen and lived through a Republican governor before. Republican in air quotes. I mean, we had Reagan. That was probably the last good governor we had here. When was the last time they actually voted for somebody that wanted to actually clean up their streets? Not with words, but with actions. Because remember when they had Mayor Lori Lightfoot, the one that looked like a zombie? I mean, she legitimately looked like Michael Jackson from Thriller. Do you know? I'm not trying to poke fun. Please understand that. We're an audio show for some. I have to give a reference of what she looked like. She looked like when Michael Jackson transformed into a zombie. And don't make me show the receipts. You guys, we've done it before. And she would always say, oh, there's no crime happening here. Crime's down. Crime's fine. It's like, bro, 60 people just got deleted over the weekend. What are you talking about, lady? What are you talking about? So they obfuscate this whole thing. They say with their words they don't want crime, but their actions say this. Oh, well, we just got to figure out if they're hungry or not. We got to get their life story. I'm not going to put them behind bars because they did some sort of criminal behavior. That's crazy. There's racism out there, and the system is inherently racist. And because the system's inherently racist, we have to let them roam free so they commit some sort of heinous crime against you and your family. We have to deal with this crap. So us normies, both Democrats and Republicans, by the way, which that's why I still, for the life of me, I really, really try to understand this. If you're a Democrat, why? And by the way, please understand, I'm not saying you should be a Republican or conservative. That's not what I'm saying. It would make so much more sense for you to be an independent going, yeah, my party's kind of has gone off the reservation a little bit, haven't they? They're allowing people to roam free with all these priors that are deleting my friends. But some of them, and I'm pointing to my head and tapping it, this ain't working correctly. It's not, and it hasn't been for quite some time, for like a long time. So you got that going on. So man convicted of trying to delete Kavanaugh gets off light once again. So our first story was a guy deletes a 6-year-old boy by putting a knife through his head multiple times, and he was deemed to be insane, which I agree is true, clearly, but then only serves 8 years in prison and is going to be walking amongst the rest of us. Let's see. There was that guy on the train that stabbed that young Ukrainian woman in the neck, was what it appeared, and she got deleted and passed away. That dude had like 20 priors, but he was deemed to be okay to be fit in society. You also have the Maryland man that was trafficking minors and men and illegal immigrants through the country, as well as beat the crap out of his own wife. He was also deemed to be not a risk to society or the community, so he gets let loose as well. Then you have this guy, Kavanaugh, convicted of trying to delete the Supreme Court justice And well, he gets to go free. You guys see a common theme here? There's another guy with like 60 priors or something. I got to find that article. He gets to roam free and gets to commit more crime. Why are we putting up with this crap is my question. And the other question I have, and I'm not asking for this, but really, at what point do people say enough is enough and then things start really going off the rails, which is a scary thought in my opinion. Like what needs to happen here for people to go, you know what? Yeah, this is enough. And then really things going off the rails. And I'm talking going after each other. I don't know. I don't have an answer for you. I'm not asking for it. I'm hoping people come to their faculties here and going, okay, this is too far. Let's bring it down. But there's one side that's being attacked predominantly. And that'd be us conservatives, Republicans. That's why we get death threats. That's why we get doxxed. That's why they come after your families. That's why they do this or that on the progressive side of the aisle. You don't see it the other way around. You notice you don't really ever hear social media influencers on the left-hand side of the aisle saying, I have all these death threats from Republicans and conservatives. I have all of them coming in. Do you notice it'd be hard for you to even name a conservative Republican that has targeted a Democrat recently? Ever, really. I mean, try to just pop one in your head. You could almost think of a Democrat at the top of your head that's assassinated somebody or killed somebody. You can almost think of it off the top of your head. You know what they would go? They would go that young man that went to that riot years ago. With them, my name, even his name is slipping me, and deleted a guy or two, and he's protecting his life. I forgot his name. The young guy. Oh God, I can't remember. Anyways, so in 2022, a man was charged with attempting to assassinate Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh. According to the Democrat Party, what's the big deal? There's no problem. I mean, they were out there. You all remember this, that they were protesting outside their houses, and Karine Jean-Pierre goes, "Yeah, Kyle Rittenhouse, thank you, Drag, appreciate you." They go, "Oh, well," Karine Jean-Pierre says, "Well, it's not a big deal. I mean, as long as they're not threatening them." Isn't that an active threat? And by the way, they were threatening them outside their houses, by the way, which you can't even do. So that's also illegal. But they wouldn't draw a line in the sand. I mean, Donald Trump, you get shot in the head and they go, tone down the rhetoric. But the people that need to tone down the rhetoric is all of us. It's like, bro, you just shot one of our guys. And they did the same thing after Charlie Kirk. They did the same thing when Black Lives Matter burns down your cities. They always project and say, you're the problem. You need to change, not them. And how else do we know this? Because their entire rhetoric, the left's entire narrative is that you need to change, not them. You're the problem. And if you don't change, we'll make sure you change by force. And that force looks at either harassing you, abusing you, or forcefully beating the crap out of you. And if that's not enough, if you don't listen to them by that point, well, now they'll just delete you. And how do we know that? Because we've seen it time and time again. These people are unhinged. And I'm not talking about the Democrats. Please understand that. I'm talking about these lefties. The Democrats, they might say some words at you, and that's their right. But they ain't going out there harming you physically and trying to delete you. So a judge sentenced this guy to 8 years in prison, which is crazy to me that you get to make threats to a sitting Supreme Court justice and only get 8 years. I mean, is this not a John Grisham novel? Is this not a John Grisham novel where this guy gets out in 8 years and now Brett Kavanaugh, who still will be a Supreme Court justice, has to worry about this guy trying to delete him and his family? Citing large part of his recent... here we go. A judge sentenced Nicholas Rosk to just 8 years in prison, citing in large part his recent gender transition to a woman. A normal guy. Yeah, that's a normie. Federal sentencing guidelines called for 30 years to life in prison. But the judge, who knows better than the rest of us, who's a Biden appointee to the Maryland federal court, spent 7 hours justifying a 22-year-old downward departure from that standard. So I'm telling you, that's why we let off with that one story. And then I showed you that video of the Seattle mayoral debate saying, well, there's disparate impact theory. Granted, this looks like a white kid, but who the hell knows? And well, now we have his life story. He's just going through a tough time because he had his pee-pee. Yeah, so once you get rid of that pee-pee, he's going to be okay. Because now we've affirmed his gender. And when you affirm their gender, not only are they not going to cause self-harm to themselves, but they're not going to cause self-harm to everybody else. And now they're free to be amongst society and the rest of us. You know his life story, you guys. He's not hungry. No, the problem was that he was transitioning. And then he was just frustrated because he was a male, biological male, and he's a woman and he's a biological male, but he's a woman in a male's body. And that frustration is what came out. And that frustration just so happened to be put on Brett Kavanaugh. So what's the answer to all this? Lop off his genitals, give him breast augmentation, and give him puberty blockers and hormone enhancers, and it's going to be okay. It's fine. It's crazy, man. And look, I've always said this because they keep going, well, we want trans rights. And you're like, what rights are being taken away? Fine, have all the rights you want. If you want to be look, once you hit 18, I've always said it, if you want to lop off your genitals or do whatever you want, if you want to lop off your head, it's your life, man. I don't think you should because I care about you. And believe it or not, I actually do love trans people. They're just people. They're going through something harsh, man. I'm telling you. Can you imagine thinking that you are a female and a male? I mean, you feel trapped. You got something wrong with you. Don't get me wrong. You got a mental disorder. You got to go seek help. It's not an easy thing to get around. I mean, there's people that are bulimic and anorexic and, schizophrenic. I mean, I don't wish that upon anybody. I would rather you seek help. But I can't force you. You can only lead a horse to water. You can't make him drink it. If you want to lop off your pee-pee, I say go right ahead. Just don't do it to kids. Don't castrate kids. Wait till they're 18. They could do it. 18 years ain't that long. And, you figure it out there. But don't come at us conservative Republicans and go, you guys are authoritarian. You don't want to let me lop off my pee-pee. I'm not speaking for all conservatives. Maybe I'm. Do it. And maybe you'll be happier. More power to you. I don't think so, but more power to you. It's not my life. Isn't it weird, you guys? And I understand we have a lot of independents that watch the show, but we also have a lot of conservatives, Republicans. Nobody else thinks it's a little bit odd that they calling us authoritarian and dictators when our entire ideology as a Republican, I'm a registered Republican, fiscal conservative. As a conservative, that they're calling us authoritarian, and Republicans are calling us dictatorships, when our whole ideology, by the way, is to have smaller government and to give more power back to the people and actually live out the republic that has the form of democracy within it. I know I repeat myself all the time on the show. I just cannot grasp that concept that we're the authoritarians and we're the dictatorships and we're the autocracies. These are all different things they call us and want us. They're saying that we want implemented. But our whole ideology is the complete opposite of smaller government. Leave us the hell alone. We don't want government involved in our lives at any form. We would actually like less laws on the books because it gives us more liberties and freedoms, because the more laws that are on the books, the more your liberties are chiseled away, which is why I've always mentioned whenever anything's being put on the books, the question that should be asked is not only how does it affect my liberties and freedom, but how does it affect the liberties and freedoms of my fellow countrymen and women? Right? I'm not wrong. Not wrong. It's weird. So this guy gets out free. The judge said prison is especially hard for transgender individuals. You have to have sympathy for these people. The length doesn't need to be particularly long. Unduly, I mean, oh boy. Hey, you think he chose these words, huh? The length doesn't need to be particularly long. What are we talking about here, Judge? What are we talking about? Sorry, that's Dark MAGA content. I'm sorry. I apologize. Yes, that is for Dark MAGA. My bad. Back up, Brad. Settle down, boy. Settle down. Unduly harsh conditions make a difference, too. Let's not hide the fact that President Trump issued an executive order saying transgender inmates would be assigned to prisons with their biological sex. This judge is really going to blame Trump? Holy crap. Let's not hide the fact that President Trump issued an executive order saying transgender inmates would be assigned to prison with their biological sex. That's usually what happens, because when it doesn't, guess what happens? A bunch of women get raped and then they get pregnant, which is what has happened. And you know what the trans community and all these lefties say as well? Well, it's such a small percentage. It's pretty rare that it happens. You want to know what? It shouldn't happen at all. That's the thing. See, if you don't put men in women's prisons, then the women won't be raped, at least by men. Now, they might go do it to other men, which is horrific, by the way. You know, you got Big Bubba over there taking a little Johnny John down to the shower really quick and doing his way with them. That ain't fun, man. That ain't fun. But at least you don't have to worry about a male, Big Bubba, doing that to little Jessica, or whatever the name is. I just made something up, but there's that for you. But don't worry. As we mentioned with the original guy, not a big deal. You just know his life story now. Because you know his life story, it's cool, man. Go out and delete a bunch of people. We'll see you later. Probably. Alrighty. Well, even the media is actually pushing back on the Democrats. If you're just enjoying us, I can't talk this morning. I'm not drinking enough coffee is what it is. I'm talking too much. If you're enjoying what you're hearing and seeing, we do this each and every morning, 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, folks. Hit that like and subscribe button and join us each and every weekday morning and get your news, get your fill. We are a conservative show, but hell, there's a lot of independents that watch us and we appreciate you. Well, Meet the Press is out here pushing back, surprisingly, on Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries and addresses what Democrats want before agreeing on a bill to reopen the government. Oh, well, isn't that exactly them keeping the government shut down because they don't want to agree on the bill? Gotcha. Okay, well, here we go.
Because as you just mentioned, you are also calling for a complete rollback of the Medicaid cuts, which Republicans just passed. They say it's a non-starter. Why include that? Why not just focus on your argument that you want to see those Obamacare tax credits extended, which expire at the end of the year?
This Republican health care crisis is all-encompassing, and it has been devastating to the well-being of the American people. We're talking about people in rural America, working class America, urban America, small town America, the heartland of America, and black and brown communities all throughout America. Now, we have made clear that in terms of what's immediately in front of us, there, of course, is an urgent need to address the Affordable Care Act and the Republicans' refusal to...
Why address it? We were told it was the best. We were told it was the best. I'm starting to sound like lisp like him. My bad. If you want to know what I was thinking and why, when I was listening to Hakeem Jeffries talk, I was like, this guy sounds like Mike Tyson. Yo, I'm Mike Tyson. I'll go ahead and eat your ear. You leave me alone. So that's why I was started with a lisp, because I'm like, man, this guy sounds exactly like Mike, like if somebody's doing a terrible Mike Tyson impression. What needs to be touched here, Hakeem? I was told the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare, was like the best thing since sliced bread. There's no problems with it. You want to know how I know all this? Is because I was still in public accounting when Obamacare went into effect. And it was such a cluster F. It was head spinning. It was really, truthfully, mind boggling that how disorganized and chaotic the whole thing was. Just to give you an example, they couldn't even get the website to work. We were being trained as tax accountants, public tax accountants, by the Obama administration on what was going to go into effect, and they didn't even know at all. They couldn't answer any of our questions. We're like, well, this is kind of a waste of time. We might as well quit the conference here because you don't know anything.
Extend these tax credits. What we're talking about here is a dramatic impact on real, everyday Americans. A married couple of two, for instance, that makes $88,000 a year, a modest amount, currently pays about $8,000 a year in their health care insurance. That's already too much. But if these Affordable Care Act tax credits expire, that same couple will be forced to pay $24,000 a year. It's unaffordable.
It's unaffordable. So Obamacare is unaffordable. Can you believe? You heard it from the horse's mouth. That ain't my words. The leader of the Democratic Party just said Obamacare is unaffordable. And we were all told, what was the seller? What were we all told for all those years? Oh, it's going to cause your premiums to go down. It's, folks, come here. It's called the Affordable Care Act. It's freaking called affordable. And the dude's going, it's unaffordable.
It will bankrupt them. It will leave them without coverage. And those are the people who we're fighting for.
But let me ask you, because you say this is a Republican shutdown, but it's Democratic senators who are withholding their votes on what is called a clean resolution. That means no strings attached, which is something, quite frankly, Leader, that you and other Democrats have advocated for in the past. Take a look.
You do not use the threat of shutting down government to try to advance your policy agenda.
First thing that the House has to do is pass a clean 6-week CR.
A continuing resolution that is at the fiscal year 2023 levels is the only way forward.
Why not fund the government and debate extending Obamacare tax credits after the fact? They don't expire till the end of the year.
Well, what we've called for is a bipartisan negotiation where Democrats and Republicans can sit down in good faith, reopen the government, pass a spending bill that actually improves the quality of life of the American people in an environment where the cost of living is already too high. Republicans promised to lower costs on day one. Costs aren't going down, they're going up. And if these Affordable Care Act tax credits are allowed to expire, premiums and healthcare costs are going to skyrocket. And America is already too expensive for the American people because of the Trump failed policies, the Trump tariffs, and this will make things worse. So we just want a bipartisan negotiation that addresses the healthcare crisis at the same period of time with the fierce urgency of now.
Do you think when it starts hailing And you know how it's like sometimes like the softball size, like hailstones that come out of the sky. Do you think these Democrats stand on their porch and go, damn it, Trump, you SOB, I knew it. I knew Republicans would vote for this son of a bitch. Do you think they do stuff like that? Do you know what I mean? Or like they stub their toe. Oh, damn it, Trump. Like, what's a catchphrase do you think that Democrats will start using that like 20 years down the road just still makes sense because we all get flashbacks of how they treat this man? You know what I mean? You know how people go, Jesus Christ, when they say things like that? Do you think like people are going, Donald Trump? Do you know what I mean? It's a terrible analogy because obviously Christ is our Lord and Savior and we shouldn't be talking and utilizing his name in vain like that. But I think you understand what I mean. Do you think they're going to have a catchphrase whenever something bad happens to them? They just blame Trump even though it's them? You know, like their checkbook bounces. Damn it, Donald Trump. I don't know. It makes you wonder. These people are crazy. Like, you know, and Trump doesn't even know they physically exist because he's never heard their name in his entire life. And they're blaming the guy for things that he didn't even do. You know, their pen runs out of ink. Oh, damn it, Donald Trump can't even get a freaking pen here in America. Oh boy, I love hanging out with you guys. Alrighty, well, I apologize for, I guess, a little bit of a shortened show in a way. I mean, we were live right on time, but some technical difficulties, and that's what we got to roll with here. But I appreciate all of you joining us nonetheless. As you can see, Democrats have lost their mind. They're spiraling out of control on crime, immigration, and more like healthcare and other things. But be careful, folks. When you're out in a crowded area, keep your head on a swivel. Ladies, listen carefully. Also the men, obviously. Folks, there are people roaming around on your streets right now that have committed a lot of crime. You could be eating dinner next to these people. You need to be careful, please, including myself. My head is always on a swivel, which is why I stopped going out to crowded places. It is bad. So please be aware of your surroundings. And if you could pack some heat wherever you go, you know what I mean, do it. Ladies, get some freaking bear mace. I don't want none of this like little thing that's on your keychain that's the size of a freaking, you know, a shooter that you get at Bevmo or whatever, one of those liquor stores. Now get the real stuff. You know what I mean? Get the canister that ICE is using, the bear mace, and just protect yourselves. Well, we will be back here tomorrow, 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time for another episode of The Bald Brad Show. If you enjoyed what you saw and you think we deserve your subscription, it is absolutely free. Hit that like and subscribe button. And for Dark MAGA, you need to be a premium member over at Rumble, or you need to subscribe to my channel over at Rumble. And I think it's like $4.99, but all the proceeds go to us. And if you don't feel like doing that, and if you still want to donate and go, well, Brad, I don't want my money to go to somebody else. I want the money to go to you. Don't worry, we got you covered. If you go to the donation tab up here at the top and you donate, well, what you could do is make a custom amount. Some people do $1. Some people do $2. We get 97% of this donation, by the way, folks, and it goes directly to the show. Again, it goes directly to the show. So don't feel like, I guess Squarespace gets 3 cents of every dollar, where YouTube and Rumble get like 30%. So this goes directly to us. Custom amount you get put in. Let's put in 1,000. That sounds nice. So there you go. One-time donation of $1,000. I'll take your money. Oh, I'll take it. All right. God bless you. Pray for this country. Pray for Donald Trump. Pray for each other. We got family members and friends and family that are in the hospital and need taken care of. So people, you know, a lot of people in the chat need prayer. Power of prayer is effective. Read a piece of scripture, folks, when you're done with the show. Even if it's on audio, read a sentence, read a paragraph, heck, read a chapter. Spend some time with the Lord today. And with that being said, I'll see you tomorrow here on The Bald Brad Show. Take care, Patriots.